right now. Well, in the right now. Right now.
We still have 10 more minutes.
My clock is really
Is it
slow.
really slow? Oh,
It's 5:28.
Oh, we have 2
We need
minutes.
to.
Oh,
battery.
yeah, I guess so.
Somebody needs to be doing some updates.
Oh, yes. I'll-
Yeah.
I'll do it. Yes. Oh, yeah. Because that's what I did. I had to go right away and like take the sword, because I didn't want to stay.
Oh,
I haven't done that yet. Like, I
Oh,
haven't.
no.
I'm trying to print them. Then I didn't realize it was collating it. We'll just try this on. So I just found it out really quickly.
Oh, no.
And what I did is I flipped them all when I did that. And that's when I grabbed them. I was like, well,
Okay, so there is a sign-in sheet running around. If you haven't signed in yet, that's, please do sign in. Does anybody need a handout? They not have a handout? Need a handout? Okay.
You know,
The mayor said to raise her hand. I don't know if she's walking out though. Anybody else need a handout? So it is a public hearing, and so I'll read that in just a second, but I mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's not like this, since this is for the grant, I can be a little bit looser about public comments. If you want to make public comments, there's 3 agenda items, there's room for public comments after each item. You're welcome to write it in now if you want to, or at the end of the item, I'll say, does anybody want to make a comment, and you just have to fill this in before you leave tonight. So if that's all right with y'all, if anybody wants to sign up for a comment right now, I have copies here. And if not, we'll just get started. Is that, we're all good? Okay, so my 2 minutes up. Is it time to start? Is it 5:30? 5:30 exactly, right on. Okay, so are you on, are we on Zoom? We're good, okay, yay, and it's on, Leah, is it, it's ready to go? It's on, and it's on YouTube. Is it live? Are we streaming? It's live? Okay, all right then. Thank you all very much. So public meeting, this is for our Texas Department of Agriculture, and forgive me, GEO is, I have not referred to it yet, so I'm not sure what GEO stands for, but it's an implementation part of the grant. This is notice is hereby given pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Vernon's annotated civil statute, Article 625217, that the city of Smithville will conduct a public meeting on the Texas Department of Agriculture, CDBG, as cultural district, oh my gosh, not cultural district, that's a whole different thing. Community Development Block Grant, Rural Economic Development to Construction Grant, TDA Go, CRC 22-0013. Held today, Thursday, June 30th at 5:30 p.m. here at City Hall, 317 Main Street, Smithville, Texas. Do I have, Mayor? Hey, Mayor, do I need to read the rest of that? Or is that all I need to read? It's just the annotated?
Just one, yeah.
Just the first part in bold?
Yes.
Okay, okay, so I'm not gonna read the rest of it, but this is what we're going through. So thank you all very much for your attention for that.
And it goes into grants online.
Oh, and it goes into grants, GEO is grants online. Thank you. Okay, grants online. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so here's our agenda. So our first part is going to be a presentation just to give everybody an update on the Workforce Training Center progress. And really that's going to go over to April. She's going to mostly make all that presentation for that. There'll be room for public comment after that. Then we'll talk about some of the recently awarded and submitted grant applications so we can see kind of where we're coming from and where we're headed. Again, there'll be public comment after that, and then the show that you're really here for, the presentation on the grant proposal, and again, public comment after that. So the Workforce Training Center progress, this is essentially just a cheat sheet for what all has been going on. And specifically related to the planning grant that we had from the TDA. So the grant that we are applying for right now is the implementation part of a planning grant that we were awarded in 2019. We were one of 2 communities that were given the funds for this pilot program that the TDA is testing out to see how well things go. So the first part of that was to do a planning side of economic development and community resiliency. And a lot of you were probably involved in all that process back in the day, right before COVID and then during COVID. And then that planning grant was finalized and approved by City Council and by the Chamber of Commerce. It was a grant that was provided to both the city and the chamber in a partnership. And so the Chamber Board and City Council approved that in September of 2020. And so we implemented some of that, there were some committees that were involved in that, and we started to do some of that implementation. But this is really the implementation side of it is where we get the funding. So this grant that we'll be talking about is going to be the $1 million grant that will help us with some of the construction and some of the other work that we need to do to be able to really implement some of the stuff that we've been talking about that was initially in that planning grant, which came from a lot of input from the community. The organizational partnership overview, and April, you can jump in anytime you want to. I don't know how much of this you want me to do and how much you want to do.
I'll do whatever you want me to do. You want me to get up and talk about it right now?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do it. Okay.
Thank you, Jill. So I'm going to just quickly give you a little bit more of an overview before I go into these details. So for those of you that are not aware, although many of you are on the Workforce Training Center board, and I so appreciate you being here this evening. We started this program, which is a partnership between the City of Smithville, what started out as a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, which then rolled into what is its own standalone, the Smithville Workforce Training Center. It's its own organization now. And of course, the Smithville Community Clinic. We started this program almost a year ago to really stand it up. We planned it for a couple of years before then, COVID, a lot of things happened. So we're now to the point where we've stood it up. We brought on 2 fantastic full-time employees to really run the day-to-day operations. Stuart Burns, who's here somewhere. Oh, he's out there in the hallway. And Leah Sensen here. So we've been working to stand up this program. We've brought in several really great educational partners and funding partners. The highlights on the educational partners are Austin Community College, Community Outreach, which is a group that funds people that want to go through training programs. So those are our 2 main educational partners. We're about to bring on another very important educational partner called Central Texas Allied Health Institute, who will be teaching phlebotomy classes and some other medical classes for us. We work with an emergency services school out of Bastrop, who's teaching an EMT class for us right now. None of this would be possible without the just absolute generosity and patience and hard work and commitment of our board of directors. Jill, of course, is the chair of the board for the Workforce Training Center. None of this would be possible without the model that we're working from, which is that we all know jobs and training are so important in our community. And we've been able to make some agreements to use some community-owned facilities that just make it possible for our local population to get affordable and often completely free to them training, which will allow them to move into not just jobs, but careers. So it's been very exciting for us to see this grow over the last really 6 months is when we started the classes. This slide that Jill is showing you, our partnership overview, does include a lot of acronyms and things here, but the answer, I left out one of our most important partners, and I apologize, Norman, I know I saw you here a minute ago. The Methodist Church has been incredibly generous and offered us an agreement to use the building that's right across from the church. A lot of people call it the Boy Scout building, used to be a doctor's clinic, whatever you call it. That building has now been repurposed into our medical classroom facility. So they are one of our important, I was reminded because I looked up there. And so it's been exciting for us also to have just an incredible partnership with Regency Healthcare, which is Towers Nursing Home. We've graduated several CNA classes. So that has been just in the last 6 months, folks. It's been exciting for us to see that. Quickly, we outgrew the building that a lot of us think of as the old tax office down on Fawcett. We then were able to move into the show barn, which was Stuart Burns's idea, and that could not have been a better idea for us as far as skilled trades go. Part of this grant will go to updating and making that more user-friendly for our student population to be in that building. It's hot in the summertime and cold in the wintertime, so it's good to be able to upgrade that building. And we are working with Smithville ISD to possibly use some classroom space as well. So there's a lot going on all at once. As far as the rest of this slide, let me make sure I'm not leaving anything off. Community Action has also come in and taught several GED and ESL classes. We have a student graduating soon. Stuart, when is our first student graduating? From the July 23rd from the GED, right? GED classes. So that's very exciting to see that growth. And then right now, to this point in just 6 months, we've graduated 42 students in just 6 months. So that's been pretty exciting. Is that what you wanted me to do?
That's perfect.
Is there anything else I should add?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
I can also answer any questions that you like, but the answer is we are going about 100 miles an hour. We have multiple classes coming online very soon. Alan Butler is here in the room. Thank you, Alan. He's on our board and brought to our attention a roofing program that is 100% paid for and managed by an industry partner who will come in and teach our students how to build roofs. So that's exciting for us. And those kinds of programs exist in multiple industries. All of what we're doing is based on numbers. We're not going to build out and offer classes if there are not jobs available in those areas. So our 3 areas that we've identified are medical, skilled trades, and IT. Right now, we've stood up our medical classes. They're very robust. They're really running very smoothly. We've built up an HVAC class that's happening. We're in the middle of getting ready to start a roofing class. We will soon be offering CDL classes training. So that's pretty exciting. And then our next piece will be IT. So that's really where we are right now. And again, I will point out, we really just started offering classes in January. So it's been pretty exciting to see the growth. Should I talk at all about this grant? Would you like me to do that?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Jill's gonna talk about the grant.
But you can jump in once I start.
Okay.
It's just not really work. So, and I did want to say, I'm sorry, in the name of politeness, I wanted to thank you all for being here, and I apologize, I didn't say that straight off the bat, but I always get nervous speaking in public, so. Thank you, April, I really appreciate that. And we also have some stuff here that you should all take home, so, and pass around. There's a lot of these workforce training center. Am I on?
Your
A
marketing.
lot of marketing pieces, yeah, they're, please do take that home with you and pass them around to those you have. If there's a few of these left over, the agenda, and we also did it in Spanish. And so if you do know anybody who would like to take a look at this, once we're all done with the presentations, please do take it to pass it around. We want to make sure we get plenty of the public aware of what's going on, and then with this grant, any kind of additional public comment would be fantastic. So if there's any room now for public comment on April's presentation, anybody want to make any comments? Seeing nothing in the audience, I'm gonna move to the next. Okay, and this is, we also have this, it's also available as a handout. So that you can actually read it, so that it's bigger than what's in the presentation. So please do go ahead and pick that up. And I just wanted to mention, like, for example, Alan Butler's roofing organization is not listed there because it's so brand new. We just keep on growing. There's more and more partners every day. It seems like there's another organization that wants to be involved. And so I apologize we didn't get that in there on time, but we'll have it on the next one. Okay, so just a real quick update on the recently awarded grant applications. So as April said, we've been thinking about this and considering it and working on it for the past several 2-3 years, sort of just mulling over how this is all going to work out. We applied to St. Davis Foundation. Well, a little over a year ago was the application. And that's really what just really kicked everything off. We got $100,000 from St. David's Foundation that really started this project so that we were able to just make everything happen. And from that, because that got started, that just snowballed into some other funds that have come in through grants and has also turned into some, we're constantly going out looking for more money for other projects and so on. So what we were able to get as well, for St. David's Foundation, we were able to get the first amount of money so that we could go ahead and get things started. And we are currently in process with them. We've submitted, well, we're in the process of submitting, no, we did. We submitted the grant and we are in the process of finding out whether or not we'll be getting the funding. We've got two grant applications into St. David's Foundation. One is for construction to do some more facilities development. And one is for a 2-year grant for a mentor or a student services person. And wraparound services. And what wraparound services would be for the students who are finding that they have barriers to getting into the training system for whatever reason, childcare, transportation, some kind of other type of, there's something in the way that is preventing them from actually getting the training that they need. And then this would be available to be able to help make sure that that is gonna take care of the barrier. So we'll have some money to be able to do that. And Janice Bruno is not here tonight, but she's going to be starting a community resource center. And we'll be working with her to try to help to absolutely make sure that that program is available to our students to be able to build that up and make sure that there are, if somebody wants training, that there's no barriers to their getting the training that they want. We were recently told that we are awarded for the next 2 years. We've got funding coming in from Bastrop County. ARPA stands for the American Rescue Plan Act. So we've got that funding coming in for the next 2 years, which will be really nice for us to just have that. 2 years, we got it going. Then we've got the Texas Reskilling and Upskilling through Education called the TRUE Grant. That'll be awarded funds for consultants to help us build a strategic plan specifically in the skilled trades to really like line out exactly what it is that we need to do in that area because there's so much activity in that area that we just need to have a consultant to just work that in. And then we have been awarded that funding. The Workforce Solutions, and maybe April, you can talk a little bit more about that, but we have submitted through them, not through our organization, but through the Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area. We're considered a backbone organization. Sure, yeah.
So we do not know if we're going to receive these funds. I feel pretty good about it, but we'll see. That is a very large grant that will require about 4 years of a big commitment in our areas, in skilled trades, medical, IT. That would require more staff. That would require us to be more regionally engaged in Lee and Fayette counties. Now, I will tell you about Lee and Fayette counties. That's where we're going to get the bulk of these workers. Bastrop County is at less than 3% unemployment right now. It's about 2.8%. That's practically no unemployment. I mean, for all intents and purposes. So the place we're going to get these people is we're going to get them from our surrounding area, from our region. Those people are the ones that are going to come to Smithville, come to Bastrop County, that are not necessarily going to pass us by and commute on further into Travis County. If we get those dollars, that will help us grow our regional focus, which is going to be really necessary. Once we, in a few years, saturate our market and we're really going along, we're going to need to be expanding more into the region. So that'll be a big boom for us if we receive that grant.
Okay, so I failed to mention the one at St. David's. We should find out next month whether or not we're going to get the St. David's funding. And the ones we just talked about for Workforce Capital, that we should know August, maybe September. We're not exactly sure when, but we should be finding out pretty soon. Okay, so now that part of the agenda is done. And does anybody have any public comments to make? Anybody want to questions? Anything? No, we're all good. And so Andy waved to everybody. Andy Esquivel, he's our community engagement coordinator. If you do have questions or comments or anything about this or other projects, Andy's your guy. And Andy is also here. He would be Spanish translating if anybody required those services, but I don't think we have anybody that's think I know everybody in the audience. And somebody would have spoken up by now. if needed. So anyway, so please do, I guess we're not, no public comments, right? Now to the next slide. All right, so this is what you've all been waiting for, and it's been what, 15 minutes, right? So we're not too bad on all the rest of it. So this is what we're proposing, and what we really need for you all to do is to, if you do have any kind of comments or suggestions or questions or anything about this, this is where we need to have your information together so that when we do put in our final application, that we'll have all of that fit in the way that needs to be fit into the grant. Now, the application, I forgot to put it on there. The application is due July 18th, but I was told we could maybe have some wiggle room if we absolutely need it. So what'll happen at the end of this presentation is that I'll take all of the information we've talked about and I'll finalize the grant application. That's going to be available to the public for about a week. And then we'll be submitting that to the Texas Department of Agriculture after that's over. So that's kind of where we are with our timeline on it. This is what we're talking about requesting. We have $1 million to request for projects related expenses. The administrative costs, we're allowed 10% on the administrative costs, and that's total project costs, and that could be mostly related to grants administration to make sure that we're getting all our reports in on time and we're doing everything that we need to just be square with the funders. The consultant would be a person assigned to do the tasks that will make the projects actually work. So that, because you can't just say you're going to do something and then, you know, the people who are already involved are already doing a whole lot of stuff. So we're not trying to add that to their slate. This is going to be a new person who would be there to get all that stuff done. And the way that we're thinking about this is about basically a $10,000 in the beginning, which would be all the planning, strategic planning, figuring out, making the connections, having a consultant with that. And then the $40,000 would be the person that would be, once it's up and running, that person is the one who's, you know, day to day on a part-time level is what we're thinking. So for $40,000 would be the year of implementation for the project. The most amount of money is going to this innovation center. And so we've got the engineering and architect part of it, that's just separated in the line because that's how the grant likes to see it. And then the innovation center, which would be brand new construction. And so we're looking for a $740,000 total package for that project. That would be located, so I think you all are familiar with where the Workforce Training Center is right now. So there's the building that was the old tax office, and then the parking lot, and then the vacant lot in front. So it would be located in that vacant lot on that fronts 4th Street and Fawcett, right? I've got a schematic to kind of look at that. But that would be where the innovation center would be. And then also upgrades to the show barn or the pavilion over at Riverbend Park. And so that would be weatherization and restroom and HVAC and whatever other kind of needed renovations to bring it up to ADA codes and so forth. And then finally, we'll also be continuing these facade grants that we've been working on. The chamber has already been running several of them for 2 years, 3 years.
$5,000 a year for the last 4 years.
4 years. 4 years, $5,000 for the last 4 years. 5,000 each, right? Each year. So this would be just kind of pushing that up a little bit. We'd be looking to see if we can get 10 businesses a year. And it would fund, like it does now, fund 50% of the project, and then the business owner would up to 50% of the project, and then the business owner would take on the rest of the costs. Any questions about that so far? We're looking. I'm going to break this up into a couple of different things. Okay. Okay, so the Texas Department of Agriculture is requiring certain things from us to be able to make sure that we have this. I didn't want to get into a whole lot of weeds on it. Part of it's like reporting requirements, like every quarter somebody's going to have to tell them, this is what we've done so far, and our status report and all that stuff. So there's plenty of that kind of thing. But these are like the really major things that we have to worry about. So the first 2 years, it's a 2-year grant, first of all. First year is primarily going to be the construction and the planning for the Innovation Center project. The second year will be basically all implementation of whatever's going on in those structures. There will be a 10% match requirement, which ends up being $100,000 or $50,000 per year. It can include in-kind. So in other words, if the city provides electricity and they do the setup, what do you call it? Yeah.
Are you talking about like the roughing in of all the
Yeah,
utilities and
if they're
things?
doing, right, exactly. If they're gonna turn on all the electric and do all that, we can count that. If they move the dirt, if we get the city to like go and get the, equipment needed to be able to, and they do that through the city, we can count that as in kind in the match. So we'll have to kind of work out all those details, but that is possible. My time as a grant writer can be included in the match.
I think it's important to point out on this slide as well, that this building is then an asset for the city. The city owns $1 million building, can likely do at least half of this in matching through city workers. And at the end of this project, the city owns a building. The people of Smithville own a building. So I think from that standpoint, it's a great investment. I'm certainly a taxpayer in the city, and I don't see a downside to accepting this non-competitive grant. And in the meantime, we're offering more classroom space. We're offering entrepreneurs and home-based business owners the opportunity to come and learn how to open a brick and mortar business, which is also economic development driver. So the upside for this is exciting and great. There's always risks. I mean, who knows what will happen, but in my opinion, as we've been looking at all of the upsides of this equals for a pretty low cost, low investment on the part of the city. We're going to have a really great asset on Fawcett Street, but we'll also have a terrific upgrades to that large show barn out at the park.
Thank you, April. Yes. So, and the other thing it will allow is ARPA funds to be used for that as well. And I'm not sure where we are with ARPA funds, if we can even, if it's all been allocated or not, or if there's others coming in this area. But, the point of this is that it doesn't necessarily have to mean that we're looking at, there will be an impact to the budget, but it could be a fairly minimal impact to the budget. Is sort of where we're at. We just have to construct the budget in the right way. The city is required to maintain these facilities as we described in the grant for 7 years. So at the end of 7 years, if everything just is not working the way that we want it to work, then we have options to change things up. But hopefully it seems like it's going well and it will go on forever. There is a low moderate income goal required for the grant, which basically means we're basically meeting a lot of that through the classes. The people who are taking the classes, the training center is really taking on a lot of the people who fit that description. So
I mean, certainly, Leah can add to this if she needs to, or Stuart can jump in anytime, but certainly at least 90% of our student population at this point qualifies to go through these classes at no cost, which means they are low income students. And that means we're meeting this goal of
Right.
low to moderate income.
exactly. Okay, so this is kind of the crux of the project. The big innovation center is really like, the other stuff I think is really kind of obvious. I mean, improvements, HVAC to the show barn and all that other stuff is kind of obvious. The innovation center is something people may have heard of, an incubator in the past. It's been a term they use. We're calling it an innovation center. It would be the idea is you're taking people who are entrepreneurs in the community and are looking for that next step to go from their garages or their kitchens into the community somehow, but might not be able to afford a rental space out on Main Street or on Route 230 or somewhere in the county. And may not really know if what they're doing as an entrepreneur in their kitchens or their garages is really going to take them to the next step. So what we're working on is using the Innovation Center as a way of providing the support and the training and what we need to be able to get those entrepreneurs within 3 years into the next level so that they can get out into their own spaces as an entrepreneur, as a brick and mortar or wherever they're going next in their phase of their business model. So that's a big part of it. So that the building that we're talking about would dedicate not quite 50% of the space maybe to that model is what we're kind of talking about right now. The other 50% of that space would be officing for the workforce training center and classroom space that would be just strictly kind of classroom, like typical classroom spaces. But this would be, the innovation center would be a membership-based program. We'd have for, and it also would provide some revenue into the workforce training center, because right now we are completely 100% relying on grant funding. So we don't have any kind of income coming into the
Right,
training center
and I'll-
to date.
Can I speak on this
Yes.
as well? Sorry, I'll just pop up and down. Sustainability is a big issue for us. Obviously, we want to be sustainable in the long term. Right now, we have secured enough funding that we know we're sustainable for the next 3 years. We're sustainable facilities wise for as long as we can keep going. This will not only help us continue with our sustainability, as it will be a modest income stream in the beginning and hopefully continue to grow. But it will also, you all know I'm the director of the Chamber of Commerce, and I can tell you our largest group of entrepreneurs right now, potential new entrepreneurs, are home-based businesses. That's where it is right now. People have it's very difficult for them to move into the brick and mortar space. I mean, we have a limited supply of that. If folks had an opportunity to have kind of a bridge, which is what this could be, incubators have been around for decades. This is not a new model. It's something that's been happening all over the country. This will allow entrepreneurs to be able to come and learn how to do financial planning, business planning, really understand what it means. As the director of the chamber, I cannot tell you how many people have started and failed their businesses in our community because they simply did not understand what it meant. Just because you have the best cake recipe does not mean you should open a bakery. That does not mean you know how to operate a business. So this gives people an opportunity not only to understand what that means to operate a business. I see many of you nodding your heads. Many of you are business owners yourselves. It also gives people an opportunity to meet fellow entrepreneurs, to grow partnerships, to really have a place to network and talk with one another in a way that will help them take seriously what it means to pour every last dime they have. I mean, I've had a lot of situations where folks have cashed in their 401ks on a dream, and then it fails 2 years later. So this is going to really help, not just Smithville, this will help our region as we help to grow those young entrepreneurs. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, thank you very much, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And what we'll be working on, especially with that consultant, as we bring in that consultant, is to really flesh this out. We've got this basic idea, but it's going to take a little bit more thought to go into that with somebody who has had some experience with that and understands what works in other places, how we can translate that here. But this is sort of like a broad brush outline for it. And the idea would be that the people who would be coming in as the entrepreneurs, that one of the commitments that they would make to the center in order to get the benefit of the below market rate rents is that they are going to be learning about how to run a business. So they'll be meeting with people, learning how to do a business plan, and they'll figure out how to do their taxes, and they'll find out what they need to know from a CPA or from a lawyer or from whatever it is that they need to know that they wouldn't already know, to help them so that by the time they are ready to move off after 3 years, they will have a better chance of success into the future. So that's really what this is all about. So we'll have two different types of entrepreneurs we'll be working with, at least in this concept. We're going to have we'll have 2 bays that will be available with big bay doors that would be available for skilled trades. Thinking about things like electrical or plumbing, somebody who needs space mostly to store their stuff and maybe have a little bit of a workspace. My husband he's a carpenter and he does cabinets, and he said that would never fit for me. But I did ask him, and he said what we're talking about could work for something like something that would be a simpler space like that. Something that doesn't need equipment in it to fix stuff or build things, but that kind of thing. And then we'd also have office space for people who are more going down a professional track or office related or I don't know, retail type oriented or building your business out, whatever that might mean. We'll have.
I'm happy to speak to this.
Yeah,
if you'd like.
Sure, go ahead.
So if you think of kind of a bullpen concept with a a conference room. So we often, at the chamber, use our space for people to do closings. Realtors are just working out of their cars. This is gonna give an opportunity to people that are really just working out of their vehicles to have a place to office. There'll be 10 cubicles, there'll be locked drawers and cubbies for them to use. It's like a shared workspace. You all think of it. We often, many of us have been in spaces that have a bunch of secretaries sitting in a cubicle farm type thing. This is a space for people to be able to come to. They can send their mail there and have a professional mailbox. It's a space for people to have shared workspace as well as a conference room, which is a need in our community. Frankly, there's one in Backstrap right now that's very, very successful. I feel comfortable that we can continue to saturate our market with this piece.
Perfect, thank you. And then, of course, as I said, there'd be classroom space for the classes that we are offering currently, the type of classes that we're offering, and then office space, not just for the Workforce Training Center, for the office needs that we are, as April said, we're growing, outgrowing our office space quickly. But then also that would have office needs for the members, like the conference room and copy machine and whatever other kinds of things that we might, that people might need, instead of if they don't want to be working out of their cars anymore. Okay, and so this is the map. And the idea here too is that it's a relatively small space because we really want to do this as a proof of concept, right? I mean, if this turns into something and we need to have, 10 bays because we've got 10 entrepreneurs who really skilled trades and we have to rethink about what that's going to look like and who's going to be in there and we need to find space to do that, then this is sort of the jumping off point to be able to do that, just to make sure that this is going to work. If the, so we have this, this is where this is what I was talking about. Tax office is here, parking lot is here, innovation center is here. There's Ford and there's Fawcett. And the building use would be flexible, right? So if it turns out that this entrepreneurial idea is just not, we're just not getting enough members, it's not really working, then we will just convert the whole thing to classroom kind of thing. So we'll have that ability to be flexible about it, or vice versa, right? This is very preliminary and up for discussion, but the idea is we would have 2 bays for training purposes for skilled trades and 2 bays for the below market rate rent program. This is a hallway. This is my drawing, so it's not really architecturally. And here's another hallway. And I was trying to make sure we had 2 entrances and exits in each place. There's a bay roll-up door, so there's an exit. Here it goes off into the hallway, so hopefully the fire goes. Anyway, it's like a real basic, but trying to hit out. Here's 2 doors, and this would be the Innovation Center office. This would be like the bullpen, like April was talking about. So we'd be offering 10 by 10 cubicles for the below market rate in this section here. We're talking right now about a 2-story building. So on the 2nd floor, which I didn't make a drawing of, it would just be basically office space and classroom space and conference room. So that would be sort of the conceptually what we're talking about. And of note, 20% of any construction costs in this new building has to go towards ADA compliance. So
Which will largely be eaten up by the elevator and the handicap accessible
Right.
restrooms.
that's not, I was gonna say that, we're not gonna have to worry about that because we've got those things going. I know this is very small and on your page it's also very small in the handout, but the concept here is that we have memberships offered, 3 variable memberships. This is just like a conceptual starting point to just figure things out, to see kind of like where do we think we really might be with revenue potential. That the consultant that would be coming in would take a look at this and redline it all over the place and say yes, no, maybe. Let's give it a shot, and then we do a whole lot in that first year. We'd be doing a lot of adjustments. If things go, I mean, April and I talked about it. We feel like this is reasonable to start with, considering we don't know anything about what kind of reception we'll have. If this is reasonable, then in the first year after the first 12 months of implementation, we'd have about $72,000 coming in. 2nd year would be about 84, and 3rd year would be about 97.
I do want to address the comment you just made about not knowing what kind of reception we'll have. This is a proven model throughout all of Texas. Bastrop has a very successful model that's working for them. I feel comfortable that we'll figure it out fairly quickly.
we're not just spitballing these numbers, it is based on quite a bit of research. Obviously, we don't know, who knows what happens, but, and, you know, I don't know what's happening right now economically, that's a little nerve wracking to me, but I feel comfortable that this will fill a need in our region.
Yeah, and I mean, I probably am sounding a little dire there, but, or, you know, off the cuff, it really has, we have done a lot of research to get the numbers where they need to be. And the other thing is that we're working off of the Workforce Training Center, which we didn't know if it was gonna work either, and we've already had 150 people enrolled and 42 graduated, and so that's like, you know, it's really, the need has been proven for this kind of a concept through that center as well, so. See, that's my whole policy. What we're thinking of for expenses, so this coordinator would be about a 30-hour staff person. We're thinking that would be the one that, you know, if would be the person who'd be making sure that getting the memberships, making sure that they're filled, making sure that any kind of training opportunities that are needed are being sought and filled. Benefits would go to that, security fee, content insurance. This cost for CPA, certified public accounting, might be, I don't know, if it might be
Yes.
covered by Legal Shield, and then Legal Shield, which would be the, what do you call them exactly? They're like a,
So it's a membership-based legal services.
yeah, and we're absorbing that expense on behalf of those renters. And then any of those membership fees that are coming in could also opt into something like that as well. So there's a lot of flexibility in that. And then the annual cost of the city, if we're right about this, the utilities at about $200 a month, and insurance on the building is very minimal to the city budget. We're trying to make sure that the city finds a great bit of benefit for a little cost. So if we're right, more or less about those numbers, we are going to be making some little bit of money to add in. And the way that we had it organized is that the first year when you are an entrepreneur coming in through those rental programs, the space rental programs, the first year would be a low cost, the second year a little bit more, the third year, the highest cost, still below market rate, and then the fourth year, you're on your own into the market. So that's why these costs are a little bit different, because each year you're adding a little bit more skin in the game for a second,
Right, because
third
it
year.
is a program, it's a pathway.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna be in there forever, you can only be in there for 3 years and you're out.
So, and at some point, this is kind of making the assumption that we have those 12 people in there, they all graduate to the second year, they all graduate to the third year. That's probably not exactly how it's gonna work out. We'll have some people won't go into the second year, some people just won't make it to the third year, so there'll be a mix. But we're hopeful that we will be making more than we are expending. And we've got at least the estimate there is to, well, we're hopeful that it will help.
And there are obviously
Maybe not.
some other miscellaneous income avenues, like people that wanna come in and have a day pass so they can use the conference room or use our business center, that sort of thing.
Okay. So that's the Innovation Center. I know that was kind of a lot. It's a big project. I'll pause here if anybody does have any questions before we move on to the show barn. Yes.
I got one on these rental spaces. Is there specifics or requirements for eligibility? How does that work? If there's things in the grant that is a particular requirement?
The grant doesn't require anything. It's up to us to make those determinations.
Okay.
But what we will do is we'll work out with that consultant. We'll figure out what the eligibility requirements are going to have to be, because we do want to make sure that there's, you know, like, for example, having them dedicate or commit to being able to take those classes, you know, there's going to be certain things that they're going to have to meet certain milestones. You know, there's going to be some things over the course of the time that they're with us that they'll have to do that we will identify and determine. With the
And
help
all
of
of that will be done in close consultation with our board of directors.
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
just curious if there was any, I haven't read the entire grant, so I was
Yeah.
curious if there's any time.
No, we have a lot of flexibility with that. The grant people, they want to have oversight on the project, but they are I have to say, they are so excited about this. You know, we started talking about it, and they're like, yeah, do that. So we're very, very happy about
I'd
that.
also like to point out that this is a non-competitive grant.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to explain what that is.
Yeah, so basically, we're part of the pilot project. There's two of us that are gonna get the money. So there's very little we could do wrong to not get this money. We just have to, and I'm in touch with the staff member and she said she said, this is fantastic. She can take that. I mean, basically pretty much all we could do is just not apply. But we're fairly, I never want to be 100%, but 99.9, we're gonna get this money. So, yeah, yes.
Parking and traffic, I mean, there's a lot going on now in this particular complex. Has that been something that's been considered and addressed?
Well, considered, yes, but we have to talk about that. When we come into more details on it, we have to just get more, we'll have to bring that to the board. That little schematic that I have here is just a little Word document, but we're gonna have an engineer, we'll have architects, we'll have people talk to us, we'll make sure that the city gives us all of the information that we need to make sure the setbacks, the parking requirements, all of that is gonna be city building, so they are gonna be on top of all of that stuff. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so upgrades to the show barn. We are proposing 180,000 for this. We're actually talking with Jack and Robert. We're probably going to need closer to 200,000. So I am assuming that I'll be going after an LCRA grant and maybe look for a bluebonnet money as well, because I think it's going to cost, we're thinking it's going to cost more. But we just need to carve out what we can carve out from this grant. We have $1 million, we have to put things in it. And having that show barn come up to having it weatherized and HVAC and all of that stuff is really important to be able to continue to have those classes out there and make sure that it's really a useful space. I don't know if you wanted to say anything more about that.
Actually, I want to know if Stuart wanted to say anything about it. It's really Stuart's deal when we talk about skilled trades. Would you want to talk just a minute? You probably have to come up here because there's YouTube, people are online. Can you talk a little bit about the HVAC class and some of the challenges we've been having because of the weather? Yeah, just because there's a camera somewhere.
Yeah, there's a camera right here.
You want to stand in front of the camera?
Yeah, yes, so the people online can see it.
Well, after we logistically got the thing rolling, in January, the next day was thigh storm.
Yeah.
And, outside, out of mind, the worst thing you can have on your hands is not knowing what you're getting into, something new. And I was out there with the students and they show up in shorts and t-shirts and it's cold. And I looked at those guys and I said, hey guys, this is the biggest day of your life to this point because you will not forget this day in August. Well, it's gone from cold to hot. And even though you attempt to market the program and the job and the professionalism that it is you're going to be working on an air conditioner out in the sun. And you're not going to set up a tent, or you're going to go up in an attic, in a hot attic or a cold attic, or you're outside and you can't tell anybody. So that's one of the pieces that we've had to work with the students in their mindset and overcoming that. But that building does get hot. It's hot. We say after you get a program going, you look at what you did and how you set it up and those kind of things. And I made a big mistake in all of it. We put the 220 power on the west side of the building, when we should have put the power on the east side of the building. It's where you had shade in the evenings. So those are the little things. I really think that we can reduce the temperature of that building. I'm talking about the interior of the building by insulating it and having it, not so much direct right on top of the roof, probably by a minimum of 20 degrees. When you're talking about a building I would never admit it to the students, but it's over 100 in there right now. And if we can minimize that temperature and just establish airflow inside of it would be a big, big improvement, as well as reducing the cold in the wintertime. The ACC has a big ambition of making that a regional service center and a training facility. And when it does, we're going to roll, and we've made a lot of headway just this week in program development. And I don't like to talk about program development until we really got the program developed.
Oh, I'm sorry, I talked about the CDL, sorry.
I got some, respectfully, boss, I got some others I'm not telling you about.
Oh, no, did you hear that?
till I get a little more firm. We got one going today, that I'm really excited about as well. So, it's a bright future. We're moving forward. The need to have that facility weatherized is really critical. And the numbers, they're there. Can we really get them done for that figure? I don't know. That's not my deal, but I can identify the need and providership of programs that we're looking to cater to. Questions of me? I didn't go 7 minutes.
Good job.
Okay, nobody? Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Stuart. Yeah, thank you. So, and everybody's familiar with the location, it's at Riverfront Park, that pavilion or the show barn, that's what we would be talking about. And as Stuart mentioned, ACC is interested in turning that into a regional facility, which would be really a fantastic thing for us to work on. We'd be rebranding it as a skilled trade center. We're entering into a memorandum of understanding, that's MOU with the Workforce Training Center and ACC for the classes and creates the regional facility. We all, in addition to the HVAC and the weatherization, we need to upgrade the restroom facilities and do some more because that 20% of any cost has to go towards ADA compliance. And so, the restrooms for sure, absolutely. Y'all have been in there, so you know. We need to deal with the restrooms there, and then we'd be having signage as well. That's the short list anyway at this moment. So we'll see where we end up, but that's the idea for now. And then the last major part of the grant would be to go for the facade grants. And again, we've already got the program running through the chamber. This would just be in addition to that, because this would be funding to continue that program. We'd be hopefully, this is part of the downtown revitalization component of that Mundo plan, that economic development, community resiliency strategic plan. That's online, by the way. That first slide had the URL, and I can send this as a slide deck, so you just have to click on that. But it's under the Smithville Chamber of Commerce, Smithville TX. And if you look under economic development, it's one of the first things under the menu. We'd be talking about, with this grant, what we're estimating is 20 business owners, building owners, or 10 per year, more or less. The building owners would be applying to the chamber. It would be a 50-50 matching program up to a certain amount. So if, for example, right now it's $1,000 for the grant for a $2,000 project. So if your project is less than $1,000, you get half of that. And if your project is more than $1,000, I'm sorry, $2,000. If your project is less than $2,000, you would get half of that. If your project is more than $2,000, you would get only $1,000, and you'd have to make up the difference. Does that make sense? Okay. Then some of the eligible expenses, just to throw some out there for you to think about. And there's more, but this is just, for example, fixing and replacing windows, pointing up your brickwork, getting some new paint. If you're in the historic commercial district, any kind of improvements would have to go through the Historic Preservation Design Standard Committee.
Yes, I'd like to clarify. The existing facade grant program that we have available through the Chamber of Commerce, anyone that has a brick and mortar space inside the city limits of Smithville is eligible to apply for those dollars. This is specifically targeting the historic district because it's part of that economic development strategic plan, and this grantor wants us to focus on the language that is in that strategic plan. So to be clear, that's why this particular bucket of money will just be for our historic district.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, and then the other expenses. So I mentioned a little bit in the beginning about those administrative costs, 10%. The engineering and architectural costs, I was told you should budget about 15 to 18% of your total project costs towards engineering and architectural. So that's more or less, I think I calculated at 15 and then I added it to round up the number basically. But all of that's gonna, however, I mean, we'll see, this is for our budget and we'll see how things shake out once we get actual real numbers. And then the consultant cost for the $50,000. And that rounds up all of the, that's it, that's what we got, that's the project. Anybody want to sign in for a public comment? Are you all good? Any questions? No? Wow. All right. Let's see. I think that's it. That's it. That's it. You don't go home.
Well, can I say one more thing? I know I know, I talk a lot, but I know, I'm sorry, and I appreciate, I know everyone in this room is very supportive of this program. I cannot say enough about the partnerships we have with the city of Smithville and with the community clinic. The community clinic we were just at an executive committee meeting today talking about dental hygienist classes. The community clinic has placed a dental van at our current location, which we intend to use to start teaching in the dental field. We have just signed an agreement with an online program called Career Steps that will offer even more online training to our local population. So the growth has been pretty amazing, and we're excited to see the continued growth. Anything you want to add, Jill?
I was thinking something else.
Okay, we're done. Thank you, folks. I appreciate it.
If you haven't signed in to the sign-in sheet, please make sure that you do that. Giselle needs that information as well. And seriously, if you do have any other comments or you want to talk with either of us or anybody on the Workforce Training Board or anything else, to just please do. It's a very open process. I'll get the grant information and narrative together and publish that so that you can see it as soon as I possibly can. And make sure that you all are aware of that, and please do forward that all out. And again, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good job. Okay. That was